Hi, everyone, and welcome to this webinar on the self-generation and community generation process review. My name is Tanya Ratzlaff. I'm with the Home Performance Stakeholder Council. If you've been on any of our previous webinars, we've had a chance to connect before. The Home Performance Stakeholder Council manages the Home Performance Contractor Network, so you might have received an invitation from us as a member or a registrant of that network. But we are co-hosting this webinar with BC Hydro today, and you're not actually going to hear lots from me today. You're mostly going to hear from the BC Hydro team. So I'm just here to welcome you and give you a few housekeeping items. I wanted to share that the webinar today is going to review the updated application process for self-generation and community generation. BC Hydro is not going to be going over any of the rebate information today. We had a previous webinar on that. We just wanted to remind you that in order to access the solar and battery rebates from BC Hydro, contractors must now be an HPCN member. So again, if that's new or you're looking for more information, we'll have some contact information at the end of this webinar to help you out there and point you in the right direction. As way of updating you, we have over 150 members now in the solar battery sector, and there's still an additional 200 plus that are currently in the process. So kudos to everyone who worked really hard to get your membership by that June 1st deadline. And to those that are still working your way through, we're here to help if you need assistance with your registration. So again, we'll have contact information at the end of the webinar for you. In terms of today's webinar on the self-generation and community generation process, there will be a roughly 45-minute presentation with about 15 minutes for questions at the end. I'm told there's a soccer game at noon, so the aim is to wrap up before the game. And I have just a few more housekeeping items to share before we dive into it. This webinar is being recorded. It's a question we get asked a lot. So yes, it is being recorded, and a link will be emailed to all registrants. Even if you have a colleague that couldn't attend today, if they registered, they'll get a link after the fact. We try and follow up within about a week's time, but in the summertime with folks' vacations, it can take a little longer. So we thank you in advance for your patience. And we will, as I mentioned, have that dedicated Q&A time after the presentation. So as we go through the presentation, if you have any questions, please use the Q&A feature on Zoom. If you're on a computer, it's probably at the bottom of your screen. If you're on mobile, it might be at the top or the bottom, but it's a little Q&A button. If you click that, you'll be able to type in your questions and you can upvote other questions that people have asked. And then later when we get to the dedicated Q&A time, there's also an option to use the raise your hand feature, and you can wait to be unmuted, and then we'll invite you to ask your question out loud if you prefer that way. If you have anything else that's a comment or you want to chat with other participants, please use the chat feature for that. If you accidentally put a question in the chat, it's very easy for us to miss it, and we don't want to miss it. So please use the Q&A button for your comments, or sorry, questions rather. All right, and the last item before we get started is we'd just like to start with a land acknowledgement. The presenters on today's webinar are joining remotely from various locations across BC. So both the HPSC and BC Hydro would like to recognize and acknowledge with deep appreciation the unique history, languages, and cultures of the 203 First Nations across BC, on whose territories we live, work, play, and learn. And if you're interested in learning more about the traditional Indigenous lands where you live and work, we have a web link there. Again, a copy of this will be included with the recording that we send out. All right, thanks everyone. Without further ado, I'm going to pass things over to Shirley from BC Hydro. She'll introduce herself and take us away on the rest of the presentation. So over to you, Shirley.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for the opportunity to present this morning. As Tanya indicated, I'm going to be going over the application process as a follow-up to our session last month on customer generations, which the two rates launched as of July 1st, and the application portal will be going live July 16th.
And I just want to remind you, Shirley, you can start sharing your screen now.
Okay, can you see it?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. So as I indicated, and we know, the self-generation and community generation rates, basically that's customer generation, went live July 1st. And now today we're going to be talking about the application process. Oops, sorry, that didn't pass. First, we want to just go over the application criteria. There's several different application streams, and we've just created this to give you a visual overview of which kind of application the respective project would fall under. So for a simple self-contained revenue meter, with or without a battery system, generation size up to 27 kilowatts. For a complex A, that would be a self-contained revenue meter, and inverter-based projects with or without a battery system. And that generation size would be over 27 kilowatt, but limited up to 100 kilowatt AC. And for complex B, that would be instrumentation transformer revenue meter projects that have and may include battery storage, hybrid inverters, or microgrid inverters. And the generation size is up to 100 kilowatt AC net injection. And I just wanted to say that this is all going to become very clear as we go through the process itself. And for complex C, community generation applications only, or all other projects above 100 kilowatts AC phase net injection, and up to a total of 2 megawatts. That's important to remember. The 2 megawatt is the upper limit. And like I said, this is going to become more and more clear as we go through. This is just an overlay. So self-generation rate is RS 2289. It's available for residential and general service customers who install their own generation to offset their electricity consumption. And it's a limit of 100 kilowatt AC per phase for net injection into the grid after the customer's load consumption. And as we know, this is transitioned from net metering to net billing. The energy price is 10 cents per kilowatt hour. Rebates and incentives. Again, this is an overlay. Up to 100 kilowatts, you can apply for solar and battery rebates and generation credits available for net injection up to 100 kilowatt AC per phase. Eligible customers, residential, commercial, and industrial. And you can see what's available for 100 plus kilowatt AC nameplate inverter. And as we go through the application process, you'll see that these options come up depending on what kind of application is being submitted. So in this situation, you can apply for incentive for load displacement portion of the solar PV generation. These are available for commercial, industrial on SGS, that's small general service, MGS or LGS rates. RS 2290, community generation rate, that's really the most new, it's the newest concept of the two, obviously. Again, launched effective July 1st, but this is designed to allow multiple account holders to contribute to and share compensation for excess generation. Just to reiterate what was said earlier last month, is you don't have to be physically connected to the community generator in order to participate. It's a virtual concept. It allows a host customer to build and operate a shared generating facility and distribute monetary credits for any excess generation. And again, the net power injection of up to 2 megawatt AC, community net injection limit. Same price as the self-gen, 10 cents per kilowatt. And just to overlay with rebates and incentives, up to 100 kilowatt, no rebates or incentive offered. And then you can see what's available for 100 plus kilowatt AC nameplate. This apply for incentive for the low displacement portion of solar PV generation. And for generation credit, apply for community generation rate for the portion of solar PV generation injected into the grid, subject to 666 kilowatt AC per phase. Again, this is going to become clear as I walk through the application process. So I'm just going to share with you what we're going to do here. I'm going to go do a preview is how do you go through the process through my hydro. And then my colleague Brandon is going to actually give us a live demonstration. So this is a preview of what the experience is, how to do it roughly, and then we'll see in real time what it looks like. And as I said, with the overview of the rates and the different scenarios is the options will come up depending on what kind of application you're submitting. So what we want to do is, first of all, log into my hydro. And as I said, this is going to be available to people starting July 16th, which is Thursday. So it's very soon. This is just in time. So we go into accounts in my hydro. And then we would click on customer generation application. So very simple. And then when we're in that customer generation application, we would click new application to start a self-generation or community generation application. So they go through the same path. You can see it says right there, no applications in this situation. That means that none have been submitted thus far for this respective My Hydro account. If you had, you would see a dashboard of what you'd already submitted. I'll show you that later. So as I said, both self-generation and community generation applications will be available on the same My Hydro page going forward. And you can even also continue with draft applications. So in other words, like I was saying, the dashboard, you can see return to dashboard. It shows, oh, this one's draft, this one's submitted, etc. So you can see there's two tiles, one's self-generation, one's community generation. And there's a brief overview of the respective rate offerings. So to reiterate, self-generation is for individuals or businesses installing or expanding generation for a single account. And community generation is for individual or business interested in setting up a shared facility to provide electricity benefits to subscribing customers. Okay. And then here is, you would click on this if you've already got a draft started and you want to continue on it. Okay, so in this situation, we're going to go through a community generation submission form. And community generation applications do not have battery only option. I'm just pointing that out. So just really following along from the questions that prompt you. So what is your role? In this case, you're going to say, I'm the contractor. And what is the project type? As I said, there's not battery only for community generation. So there's the details of installing generation only or a system with energy storage, etc. And this following through and answering these quite basic questions at this point. I'll get more technical in the next one. And this is where we want to community generation, who's applying, the contractor. So you would put the contractor, company name, if it is for HPSC, you're going to see the names already pre-populated in the drop-down list. If it's unlisted, you can still proceed and submit your application. You would just add your name in. Okay, so this is where we get more technical, as I indicated. So this is system information. So obviously, You'd put the generator energy source, generator type, generator capacity, proposed injection amount. So this is the simple calculation, basically, proposed injection amount times number of phases. So if we reflect back to that first table I showed you, we talked about number of phases at maximum. So this is a simple calculation of these three numbers. If the proposed injection amount per phase is less than 100 kilowatt AC, then the form will show additional questions with regards to energy storage and inverter details. So this is what I was referring to. The form is dynamic based on what kind of project you're submitting. So in this situation, we're going to go, and again, Brandon's going to walk us through a specific scenario, but in this one, I'm going to show you the screenshots. We're getting questions about batteries and inverters, and they will be selected from a pre-qualified list. Okay. If the total nameplate capacity of the system exceeds the proposed injection list amount, a monitoring device connected to the power flow control system is required. So that's going to be a prompt you're going to get if that is the scenario that you're submitting. So it automatically will ask you for the monitoring device information. So that's what this is. So these are pretty basic questions about that. And again, supporting documents are going to be asked contingent upon the application submitted. If the generation nameplate capacity exceeds 100 kilowatt per phase, a single line diagram that's basically authenticated by a active professional engineer in British Columbia must be submitted. And for community generation, if the proposed total injection amount per phase is greater than 100 kilowatt AC and up to 666 kilowatt AC, the rest of the form will be hidden. And the remaining required information will need to be gathered via PDF application form, which will be emailed directly to the contractor, which is you, or the customer if that's not you. So my hydro application rebates for self-generation, there's the rebate options. And the customer is going to have to confirm whether they're a registered owner, if they're applying on behalf of social housing or Indigenous governing body, and what specific rebates they are applying for. So we can see that here. And this is, you're applying on their behalf in this situation. And incentives. And again, these incentives will only show up if the account is not residential. So SGS, MGS, LGS rates. And if it's not inverter based and the installed generating capacity is over 100 kilowatt AC, or if the inverter based and the total nominal output capacity of all inverters is over 100 kilowatt AC. So it's going to ask, are you interested in applying for load displacement incentives for the project? Yes. And how much you expect the project to displace in terms of load. Okay. And This is the application submit from your point of view, contractor view. If the contractor is submitting, they have to fill out the customer's email for them to authorize, because you're doing this on behalf of the customer. They're going to get an email to tell them this is happening. And just so you know, if the customer was submitting, this section would be removed because they would be providing their own consent. It's an extra step for the contractor to be aware of. So before this is submitted, you get we have the opportunity to review. This is basic. I know it's super small, but let's just say it summarizes everything we've put in so far. So you can just give it a scan and make sure that everything is accurate. If it's not, that you can go back and correct it. So it's got everything from the inverter details to the kind of generation capacity, monitoring, everything, energy storage. Everything that we've gone through is summarized here, depending on what kind of application we submitted. One thing to be aware of as part of a community generation requirement, the community generating customer, which is the host, must submit a list of benefiting customers. So that they would get this request. You'll be asked to submit this on behalf of for any community generation application. And it's quite straightforward, not a lot of information, but basically this is the community generator and their list of benefiting customers. They have to be BC Hydro accounts. And then we put their address. You would put their address in here. And then the key thing here is allocation percentage has to be equal 100, can't be more than 100 for obvious reasons. And the other thing is credit billing services required, yes or no. And what that is the community generating customer asking BC Hydro to allocate this percentage on behalf of them to the respective benefiting customer. And I'll show you what I mean by that. So that means that BC Hydro does the credit on bill for the community generating customer. So they don't have to do it. They have a choice. They can do it themselves or they can have BC Hydro do it. And it's just one little line on the bill with a credit. And I'll show it to you in a couple minutes. And here's a subscription fee. So this is the fee that the community generating customer is charging the benefiting customer to be a member. In this case, we just put in $100 as a sample. As I said, there is a dashboard for applications. And at the very beginning, if you recall, there was nothing in the dashboard. If you had submitted applications in the past or you were working on a draft, you would see that here. And it's it has the details of the application number and the project type, etc. But I think this is going to be quite a helpful thing as you submit applications. Just to point out, for submitted applications, customers will need to contact the customer generation product operations to withdraw. So in this case, you can see withdrawn. They would have had to that needs to be done directly with the operations, with the customer generation email box saying, please withdraw this respective application. Okay. So the key points to remember with regards to the application process, I mean, there's a lot of things to remember, but just kind of like some of the key highlights. If the total nameplate capacity of the system exceeds the proposed injection amount, a monitoring device connected to the power flow system is required to limit the net power sent to the grid. And that is going to be asked in the application process. If the generation nameplate exceeds 100 kilowatt AC per phase, a line drawing is going to be required, as I indicated. And as we saw, as the contractor, you will need to fill out the customer's email for them to authorize the application. And we went over the contractor dashboard that will show draft, submitted, and withdrawn applications. And after application submission, you'll receive, I'm just going to walk at a high level, receive application acceptance. The phases and applications are routed to the various internal teams. This scale and setup of your generation system will determine whether we classify, and this goes back to that first slide, as simple, complex A, complex B, or complex C, which is going to impact processing time and some of the documentation required. The application requirements are simplified for a simple application, and the complex applications are subject to a more rigorous review. And once all the steps above are complete and interconnection is approved, a confirmation email will be sent notifying the customer that they can get connected to the grid. And as I said, I want to show you a sample of the bill. So this is a situation where the community generating customer opted to have BC Hydro apply the generation credits on their behalf to the benefiting customer. So this is a rate rider, meaning it's added, the credit is added to the energy amount. That I know that question came up before, how is it applied? It's only added to the energy amount consumed by that respective benefiting customer, not anything more. And you can just see that it's a line item. So it's right there, generation credit. In this case, the person got a $100 credit. Okay. It's very, very simple. So with that, I'm going to hand you over to Brandon, who's going to walk you through a live demonstration.
Thank you, Shirley. Just going to share my screen here. Okay, could everyone see my screen?
Yes, we can see it, Brandon. Thank you.
With the application? Okay, perfect. So as Shirley mentioned, you will have to log into your BC Hydro account to use the application. So I've already done that. So you go, after you log in, you go to Accounts, My Hydro, and then click on the Customer Generation application, which will take you to this landing page. If you have any applications that are existing, in this case, I have one that's withdrawn, it'll show up in this table. And I'm just going to submit a new application. So I have an option to submit either a self-generation application or a community generation application. Now, both of these applications are basically using the same application in the back end. The only difference is that we're setting a tag to identify whether it's a self-generation or community generation, but the fields are all entirely the same. So for this example, I'm just going to show a self-generation application because you're mostly familiar with that type of application. What we've done is we kept everything fairly the same, only we've added some new fields that Shirley had highlighted earlier, and we updated some of the logic to present the information as applicable based on the customer selection. So I'm just going to start a new application. So application type, because most of you are contractors and you'll be submitting on behalf of a customer, So I'm just going to select that just to show that flow. And I'll be installing a generating system with energy storage. So I'm just basically making a selection that will show the most screens. And I'm also replacing the components and increasing the system capacity or size. And then specify, what's the primary space heating type. You can just make any selection here. In this case, I'll choose electric, and I'll do a continue. And because I specified that, I was the contractor, all this information from my first name, last name came in as read-only because it's copied over from my BC Hydro profile. And what I need to do is specify the company name. So we have all the HPCN company names added to the list. So as when you start typing, it'll just select the company for you, and then you just select the matching one. If the company name is not there, then you just type in the company name as required. And then I'll click continue. Just note, to qualify for the rebates, you must select a HPCN company. So for the system information, I'm just going to say solar, and by selecting solar, it defaulted to inverter base, and I'm unable to select induction or synchronous. However, if I select the other values, then I'm able to select the induction and synchronous. Wind could be either or, but if you select solar, it's always inverter. So I'm going to type in the installed generated capacity. So currently, we're capped at 100 kilowatts DC for the installed generated capacity, but starting from the 16th, we will be able to enter a higher value for that. So in which case I will put 150 or so, and the proposed injection amount per phase, I'm going to put say 20. And so if I just to show you, if I go over 100, I will get an error message. Because it's self-generation, the requested injection amount should be between 1 and 100. So we have that logic built in. If it's community generation, then you can go up to 333 per phase. But in this case, I'm showing self-generation, so I could only have up to 100 proposed injection amount per phase. So I'm just going to say 50. And it's going to be a single phase or split phase. So I'm going to select that value. And then my proposed total injection amount is 50. If I select two phase, it'll be 100, three phase, so 3 times 50, so it's 150. So in this case, I'm just going to go single phase. And because I selected that my generating system also includes a battery storage, I will need to select the battery type. So we have a list of all the qualified batteries right here. And by typing in a value, you can pull that battery up. And so right now I'm just going to select this one. And then so the battery make would be Fortress Power. And then the model would be this one per se. And I'm just going to enter any value here. And for inverter details, I'm just going to select an inverter and inverter model. So this, you're probably very familiar with this because we haven't made too many changes on this other than these additional fields here. So number of inverters, let's say 3 inverters. And then the nominal output capacity of this inverter is 9. So what's going to do is it's going to multiply the 3 times 9 once I select the type of inverter. So I'm just going to enter the inverter voltage. This is a new field. So 120 volts measured from line to neutral. And the inverter number of phases is going to be a single split phase. And so I can identify what this inverter is for. Is it a solar inverter or is it for the battery? So in this case, it's going to be a solar. And that amount is added to the total inverter, total nominal output capacity of all the sources of inverters. I'm just going to add another inverter type here. And I'm just going to say the same type of inverter. And the model is going to be the same here. I have 2 here and 120 as well. It's going to be a single phase, but this time it's going to be a battery inverter. So I'll select that. So it basically added the value to here, but what's going to trigger is this additional question. Is the inverter storage system configured only to operate in standby mode to provide power during an outage? So basically what we're getting at is, are you injecting into the grid? So if it's not set up to provide power only during power outages, then that means you're injecting to the grid. So I'm going to say no. And is this inverter a DC coupled hybrid? If I answer yes, then we can just leave it at that. But if I answer no, it's going to ask me, is the inverter part of an AC coupled microgrid? So I can say yes or no. But if I say yes, then that value is going to be added to the total nominal output capacity because it's injecting back into AC power back into the grid. And so that's where we come up with the total nominal output capacity. So what you see here, this becomes the nameplate capacity for your generating system, because that's the amount that you're going to be injecting into the grid. If it's non-inverter based, then we go by the installed generator capacity. However, because this is inverter based, what we'll be using is the total nominal output capacity of all the inverters. And that value here is going to determine the rebate, whether you get a rebate, whether you qualify for a rebate or an incentive. So if you're up to like 100 kilowatt AC, then you qualify for rebates. And if you're over 100 kilowatt AC, then you qualify for incentives, providing you're not a residential account. If you're commercial or industrial, then you qualify for incentives. However, in this case, I'm a residential account, so I won't be qualified for the incentives. So I'm just going to answer yes. These are all are certified to spec. However, if I say no, then it's going to remind me that I'm going to have to upload the spec sheets later on. So in this case, I'm just going to say yes. Monitoring device, because my injection into the grid is lower than my generator capacity, it's going to ask me, it's forcing me to add a monitoring device to control how much power goes back into the grid. So in this case, I'm going to select that device type. So we have 3 types of monitoring devices. We have the MIDs, the PCS, and PPCs. Majority of the monitoring devices are MIDs. We do have 3 types of PCSs, power conversion systems, and we're still working on some PPCs. So let's say, for example, I'm just going to select an MID and then select a make. So it's going to be anchor. Select the model right here. And it's the location of this monitoring device is going to be at the BC Hydro point of metering. If you say other, then you're going to need to identify in your single line diagram where the location of the monitoring device is. So that important fact must be included. And then we're also going to ask whether the monitoring device is certified to the standards. In this case, I'm going to say yes, but if I do say no, then we'll have to upload the data sheets to prove the certification. In this case, I'll say yes for now. And then because of the values that I've entered, this is essentially a complex B project. So as such, a single line diagram is required, as well as the site plan, and the battery storage and hybrid microgrid documentation is also asked for an upload. If you don't have this information right now, it could be provided later on after your submission. So we're not, blocking the submission. And if there's any notes, you would enter it here. So I'm going to click continue. And so it's going to ask me what is my the email of the customer to complete this submission for application. So you would enter the email address of the customer, of the BC Hydro customer. So this email address should be the email address of the customer that has a BC Hydro profile. So that the email address must be a BC Hydro profile email address. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to enter my own address. So in this case, I am a contractor/owner. This way it will allow me to show you what it looks like on the customer side. So I'm just going to enter my own email address here. And then I'm going to read over the contractor acknowledgement, and then click that I have read and agree to the acknowledgement and the privacy statement. And I'll send this draft application to the customer. So, and then I get a confirmation number. So I'm just going to write this down right now. So 301 417 574. So this application number is important because it's going to ask you to provide that application number when you submit the application to the operations for review. We would also, within this page, we have some next steps to tell your like what you would expect as the contractor. So what's going to happen is your customer will be prompted to review and submit the application via an email. They'll get a confirmation email. In addition, you yourself being the contractor will also get an email notification that a draft application has been submitted to the customer. And then when the customer opens up that email and completes the submission, you will also get an email to notify you that the customer has submitted the application. So it kind of gives you a status update. What I also like to show is that we have a new section here. This is what I've wanted to demonstrate is that now as a contractor, if you have multiple installations that are very similar, and what you can do is you can copy what you just submitted into a whole bunch of other submissions that are similar, and then just tweak what the differences are. So that would save you a lot of work. Where would you use this scenario, this feature? This is when you have multiple applications for a project with a single payee. So an example would be a social housing organization or an indigenous governing body. So basically when you click on the yes, copy the information and continue, it's going to keep on going into this loop until you say, no, I'm finished with this application. So I'll just show you what that looks like. I'm going to, so I just made a submission. I'm going to copy the information and continue. So right now, because the application type is the same, I am just going to, I'm taken to the technical contact page, and that's still the same. I'm just going to go continue. And the system information, I'm not going to, it's going to be the same. But if it's somewhat different, I can make a change. And in this case, maybe it's a different enclosure for the battery storage. But I'm not going to make any changes at this point. So everything's the same. I'm just going to keep on reviewing to see if there's any changes. No, there aren't any. If you have uploaded some supporting documents, the same documents will be copied over. So it'll save you a bit of work to from having to copy the attachments, and go click continue. And then, but where this is different is that now you have to enter the customer email for the second customer. So this will be a different email, but in this instance, I'm just going to put my same email address, just so we can see everything from the customer side of things. And then we'll need to do the confirmation, and I'll just send that draft to the customer. And you know what? I'm going to do another one just to show you what a bulk application looks like. So everything's the same. I'm just going to continue. Continue. And then I'm just going to enter my same email address. But if you're doing this for different customers, then you'll enter their respective email address. So you will be sent an individual confirmation email for each customer. So if you're going through a bulk applications, you're going to get a bunch of confirmation emails for each customer application. So I'm going to send this draft. And then I'm going to say, no, I'm finished with this application, because this will trigger an end to the submissions. So what you see here are the applications that are grouped. By default, I have one here that's shown as withdrawn. That was previously. The applications here are sorted by the newest application at the top. So what we have here is a group ID. This group ID is the same number as your first application. So that's the template that you copied it from. So all these ones are the part of the same group. And you can sort it in ascending, descending by clicking on these little arrows here. So by default, it's sorted with the newest followed by the oldest. So in this case, I'm just going to take this and I'm going to click on it. So I can withdraw the application because I'm the contractor, or I can just leave it. But as a customer, because what the customer would will see is that they will have to go through this way. So the customer will get that email, and they'll copy and paste that uh, uh, application number, and they'll do a continue draft, and then they'll enter that number here, and then select their account. Application number shouldn't have that pound sign, and I'll select an email address, and then I'll just click continue. So the technical contact is going to be the same. It's been provided. And then I'm going to go through continue. System information, I'm not going to make any changes. But I will need to upload some of these attachments later on. If you don't, they're not required to be uploaded right now, but they will be required before you can connect to the grid. And notice that we have an additional rebate tab right here. And so I'm going to say I'm the registered owner of this property. Yes. And none of these apply. I'm not an Indigenous governing body or a social housing organization. And so I can say, yes, I want to apply for a solar rebate or battery rebate or both. Or I don't want to apply for any of these. So, but if I say yes to some of these, then they'll also ask me to enter the Interact e-transfer or the check information. But just to make this go smoother, I'm just going to say no, I'm not going to apply for any rebates. I'm going to click continue, and then I'll look at this information, confirm everything that's been submitted. Looks fine. I don't have any attachments. I read over the acknowledgement and I do a submission. So this is me as a customer submitting an application. So the application has successfully been submitted. This is the application number. The same number will be sent in an email for your own records. We have some next steps here, and those same next steps will be duplicated in the email that is received by the customer and also by the contractor yourself. And if I go back to the account summary, oh, okay, so it takes me back to my account, but I want to go back and see where my where I'm at with the application. So I'm going back to the account and customer generation application. So you'll see that the application that I've just submitted is now in review. So it's being reviewed by BC Hydro. And then if I want to go in and look at the application status or the details, I'll click in here. I can view the detail status. Not the status, but the information I've submitted. And I'll just go back to the dashboard. Essentially, that's it. So we submitted a self-generation application. So I in this case, I have one customer that has just completed their submission. Now these other ones are still in draft because they haven't been submitted yet by the customer. So at this point, I can also go in here and I can also withdraw this application. So if I withdraw this application, I get this message saying the application's been canceled, and I'll view the application details, and it tells me, what that submission was. And then I go back to the the dashboard page. So go back to the dashboard, and it should show the application that's withdrawn as well. So that's essentially my presentation and demo. Just at this point, I will stop sharing, and we can take any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Brendan, and thank you, Shirley. We're just keeping an eye on the time here, and I've been chatting with the Hydro folks. So the Hydro team has been doing a great job at answering a bunch of questions in the Q&A chat. So if you've asked a question, please go back into the Q&A chat. You should see some tabs at the top. One should say answered, and if you click in there, you'll see all of the questions that have been answered over writing. In terms of any outstanding questions, it does seem, I'm just checking in with the Hydro team, Kirsty or Shirley, do we have time to try and answer some questions, or do we need to wrap up and follow up in writing afterwards?
I have time.
So Shirley has some time.
Yeah, I'm available.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
I
It
think
just
we can
seems like
answer.
some of the questions might not be able to answer it if certain individuals have to leave, but we can follow up after the fact on those ones.
Yeah.
Perfect.
We'll
Okay.
follow up with a Q&A after.
Perfect. Let's do that. So we understand if you have to run. So a reminder, we're going to keep recording, but if you would like to stick around and see if some more questions can get answered, otherwise, again, check that chat because it's possible your question was already answered. So, okay, let's go to the Q&A box then. Just bear with me as I get that back up in front of me. Perfect. Okay, and let's see what's left. Shirley, if you also want to click open the Q&A, it might help you just to have them written in front of you.
Yeah, I have it. Thank you.
Yeah, some folks find that's helpful. So, so let's start with the first one. For the benefiting customers, what happens when/if their community generation credits offset more than their residential monthly bill? Does this ever get paid out as cash?
I'm going to have to just get back on that one to be 100% sure.
Okay, of course. So BC Hydro will follow up. Just keeping track so that we make sure we do that after the fact. Okay, next one. I'm not sure Dan is referring to something specific, but he says, how will this be shown on the bill, and will it still be held as credits or paid back?
Yeah, so I did show an example of that one. That was a line item on the bill. It's a credit.
Okay,
it's applied directly to the energy.
Perfect. Thanks, Shirley. And then from Jennifer, are N-phase microinverters considered microgrid inverters?
I saw that one, and I'm going to have to double check on that one for sure.
Okay, so we'll double check on that one. Perfect. Okay, and then from Richard, usually the temp meter is registered to either the general contractor or other, not normally the end user responsible for the account. Can we still apply and transfer to owner, or is there another means to process this?
We're going to basically require the permanent meter to be available. So we've actually withdrawn the new installation. So that is no longer available.
Can't do it, yeah, on that one, for sure.
Great, thank you both. Next one, will there be a webinar for completing a self-generation application on behalf of the customer?
Okay, it is the same process as what we just walked through.
Okay.
So they are the same process. So I don't, unless there's a need, I wouldn't think so. But if there is, then we could, if we had to, if there was desire for that.
Okay, I'll say the process is the same as we
It is 100%, yeah.
Okay. All right, good. We're clocking through a few, so let's keep going. From Eduardo, does BC Hydro allow a for-profit company acting as community generator for a group of unrelated dispersed subscribers, not a strata, not a co-op, to be within the intent of RS 2290?
Well, you can definitely be dispersed subscribers for sure. It can be not a strata, not a co-op. But I want to just double check. I'm wondering what that person means, Eduardo means by for-profit company. This entity is making money by being a community generator. This is what I'm guessing they mean by that.
Perhaps is this a good case, Shirley, where Eduardo should get in touch with the BC Hydro team?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that would be helpful.
So when we send the link out, we'll have the contact information for Hydro, Eduardo, and then we would encourage you to follow up directly just to make sure you get the accurate information.
Perfect.
Perfect. Okay.
Mhm.
And then Rick is asking some questions, but he says from previous webinars. So Shirley, if you can see those questions, is there anything related to today or should we leave that?
Yeah, I can answer that one.
Okay.
What is happening to customers' excess kilowatt hour generated from the rate schedule? Is that what was being asked? This one here? Yeah, so that would be June 30th, 2026, which is 2 or 3 weeks ago. Would have been the anniversary day, because the rate was changed July 1st, and then they would have been a payout at that change.
Okay. And sorry if I missed it, Shirley. Does that answer their second question as well? I was typing as you were responding, so.
If a customer has multiple meters on the same account, does the excess solar generation credits automatically offset? Multiple meter on the same account, just as I'm going to just double check on that one, but I would say yes, but I just want to be sure. So I would like to get that back to you in writing.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, I mean, just to take to qualify that, Shirley, essentially, if you have multiple meters, we're only looking at the everything that's a part of all the accounts. So if you have multiple meters that are rolled up, the credit is going to show only on the net metering meter. But I mean, with that credit, it's essentially offsetting the other meters as well.
Does that answer the question, or should we still flag that for follow-up?
I think it should be flagged.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. Maybe Kirsty or someone else, I'm going to click it as done, but if you could go under answered and flag that for follow-up, please. All right, let's keep going. Next one, for projects in excess of 100 kilowatts per phase, can the customer avail of both the commercial rebate as well as an additional incentive for the load displacement portion? What will not be allowed to inject into the grid?
I'm going to refer that one to Shantanov, please, if he's still here.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, so rebates are essentially available for projects which are up to 100 kilowatt nameplate capacity. Above that, you're not qualified for rebates anymore. And if you happen to be one of the industrial or commercial customer who's on general service rate, SGS, MGS, LGS, then you can qualify for load displacement incentive only for the load displacement amount of the power, of the energy. So you cannot qualify for both rebate and incentive. It's one or the other, depending on the size of the project and what kind of a customer rate you are on.
Perfect, thank you.
All right, thanks.
All right, next question. If a self-generation customer is paid more than their bill in a year, will BC Hydro pay them for the extra amount as a check at year end?
I'm just going to have to I'll get back to that one. Just double check.
Sounds good.
Mhm.
And then there's been a few questions related to the next one, which is email being the most effective way for BC Hydro to communicate on these applications. So this person is saying, in regard to email being the most effective way, it can take 3 to 4 weeks sometimes to hear back from BC Hydro by email regarding self-generation questions. Is there any way to create a phone contact for customers and contractors to get a more timely response?
We can look into that suggestion. Right now, we're asking for email, but that's something we can look into in the future, if that would be more efficient.
Great, thank you. Okay, next one. Are rebates calculated based on DC system size or AC?
AC.
Good. Okay, and then next one for the community generation, how much, oh, Aaron would like to answer it live. Okay, perfect. For the community generation, how much will BC Hydro charge to manage distributing the credits? And Aaron she would like to answer that question.
Oh, no, sorry. I was
Oh.
just gonna confirm the response from the last question
Okay.
in writing. So I think I clicked the wrong one. But thanks for keeping on top, Tanya.
No worries, thank you. So back to Shirley then to respond to that one.
The question with regards to
the community generation.
charging. Oh yeah. Yes, that's a very good question. Right now, BC Hydro's not charging and won't be for a couple of years, say for 2 years. And that is because we're evaluating what the cost will be. So there's no charge right now, but there will be a charge in 2 years.
Okay, perfect. And yes, if the BC Hydro team who's working on the back end, if you'd like to follow up with these short and sweet answers by putting it in writing, that's really helpful. Okay, next one. In an adds 2 meters scenario, 2 meters, 1 account, that switch to net billing, how will that work relative to exported amounts provided at 10 cents per kilowatt hour? Example, solar is on a detached garage or shop with minimal consumption. Solar attached to the shop to offset the house's load. Will the customer be only provided the 10 cents per kilowatt hour for all exported energy from the shop, or is it netted first across both meters?
I will have to confirm on that one.
Okay, that's good. And then I'm also just taking a moment to go over to see if anyone has their hands raised, and we do have somebody with their hand raised, so let's give them an opportunity. I see Ripsun Manga. I'm going to invite you to unmute yourself, so you should now have the opportunity to unmute yourself. Usually it's on the bottom of your screen where your microphone is. I'll give you a moment to see if you can do that. Otherwise, we'll move on. So I'm not hearing you yet. Ask to unmute. So just a few more seconds. Ripsun Manga, if you're there. If it's not connecting, we might be having some technical difficulties. So unfortunately, we might have to get you to put your question in the Q&A because it doesn't seem like it's working. So apologies for that. So, all right, Shirley, let's go back to the questions then. The next one is, I understand that customers will be paid for their excess power production monthly under the new rate schedule. How will that be paid?
It's a credit on their bill.
Okay.
And the next question is 10 cents.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, and then the next question after that, can the customer account holder see the documents that are uploaded by the HPSC contractor when closing the application?
Yes, that's what Brandon walked through. So they have the customer view.
Okay.
So that's why in the application, you're asked as a contractor to provide the email of the customer for whom you're applying, and then they would be able to review the whole thing.
Perfect. Okay.
And that's why they have to look at it, and then they complete the acknowledgement form.
Okay, perfect.
That Brandon walked through.
Great, thanks, Shirley. Next question. With the change to net billing, can customers get a larger array above the typical about 110% sizing to try and get a full bill offset now that kilowatt hours are credited at 10 cents, no longer reduce the bill to 0?
I don't know what they mean by can customers get a larger array? What does that mean?
Mm-hmm. So,
Sorry, that's unclear to me. What does that question mean?
Yeah, that's fair. So Rick, I don't know if you have, oh, perfect, he has his hand up. So Rick, I'm gonna invite you to unmute yourself. Oh,
All right, I think I'm in.
yeah, we got you. Go for it.
Perfect. Yeah, so when you're going to size a customer's system in the past, you've only been able to put on a large enough system to offset their annual kilowatt hours. Now, with the change, the numbers we're running, we're still seeing about a 10% shortage. So the customer is not able to now offset their bill with the size of array under the old kind of rules for sizing. So if they could go to a larger system that's going to overproduce more often to produce more credits at that 10 cents, then they'd be able to reduce their annual bill closer to zero versus now it's essentially impossible.
So you should still be able to increase the generator size. What we're looking at is we're looking at the injection back into the grid. So if you increase the generating capacity, it could be over 100 input capacity, but as long as you have a monitoring device to control how much you inject back into the grid, then you're good. The limit for self-generation is up to 100 kilowatts per phase. And for community generation, it will be 333 kilowatts per phase.
Right. But so I guess I was more referring to, a smaller individual residence. So you're saying now they could go essentially as big as they want as long as their electrical can handle it?
Yeah. I mean, as long as the electrical could handle it, and they need to have safety certificates, and they are within the injection limits.
Okay, that's interesting. Okay, thank you.
Great. Thank you, Rick, and thank you, Brandon. All right. I think we can try and get through these last few questions, Shirley, and then perhaps we wrap it there. Perfect. Okay.
Credit, yes, BC Hydro would pay it out. But that would be assuming that's what's left over after it was applied to that respective customer's consumption.
Okay. So Eduardo had asked, can you confirm any credit above $50 in a bill would be paid out as cash to a customer? So the answer is yes, assuming that.
Well, yeah, it has to offset the customer's consumption first.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right, and the last question we'll answer for now is, I had a solar project completed and submitted to BC Hydro over a month ago, and the customer still hasn't received the okay to connect to the grid. How long does the approval normally take?
I mean, I don't know specifically which project that is being referred to, but it could take definitely a couple months given the complexity of the applications. So 1 month, I wouldn't be too concerned at that point, but it could take a while longer.
I might have missed this, Shirley, but did you provide like is 1 to 2 months a standard wait time? Obviously,
I did not provide that. No.
Yeah. Okay. Because obviously certain cases differ. So
exactly. The simple, like that's what we're saying. The simple is obviously the faster, and the more complex ones are going to take a lot longer.
Okay. So for Darcy specifically, who asked this question, you're saying after 1 month?
There's going to be a range based on the complexity of the application.
Okay.
It's a simple install. Yeah. I would have to look at that specific application. If you could send it in, that would be good.
Okay. Yeah, so we're providing contact information to everyone here that they can follow up with Hydro. So it sounds like for now, if you've been waiting over a month for a simple install, follow up with BC Hydro through their email address, which we'll share. Good. Okay. Perfect. Thanks, everyone. Well, for the sake of time, let's wrap up there. If you have any additional questions, again, we'll share contact information so you can get in touch with BC Hydro directly. And there will also be a recording of this webinar so you can read and watch it over. Thank you so much to Shirley, Brandon, and the rest of the BC Hydro team. Thank you to everyone who joined today's webinar and for those who stuck around for our extra Q&A time as well. As I mentioned, we try really hard to get the link to the recording out to you within about a week's time, but especially heading into summer, certain staff might have vacation. So we just thank you for your patience in advance, as it might take a little longer. If you haven't heard from us within a couple weeks, that might be a good time to follow up. But until then, please allow us some time to get that organized. With that, thank you very much, everyone. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.